Chapters and our latest webinar with Chase Advancing Black Entrepreneurs Program, Marketing in the Digital World. We're doing part 2 of this, where we talk about supply chain certifications. We're thrilled to be back with a new module segment for you, and know that it'll be beneficial for your business. At USBC, we want to ensure that there's every opportunity for you to be able to expand your business, be able to gain procurement opportunities, no matter what the size of your firm is. And so from our largest companies, which sit in the USBC President Circles, to our smaller companies where we work with them individually through programs like the SBA's Community Navigator program, we want to see you win contracts with the federal government. And that's a new level of business opportunity for you that we're going to talk about today. So our panelists today are going to give us insights into this realm of leveraging digital marketing in this space for business development, as well as certification with tips, resources, strategies to help all of us be successful. So just a little bit of background about USBC. We are, and I'm not sure if you all are seeing the slides advancing. I'm not on my end, but hopefully we'll move to the next slide. So we are known as the National Voice of Black Business, where we're providing committed visionary leadership and advocacy in the realization of economic empowerment for Black businesses across the nation. And we do that through 5 pillars of service. Those 5 pillars include advocacy, where we fight for legislation, promoting small business growth, access to capital, which is some of what we'll also discuss today. But as you know, financing has still eluded many Black-owned companies, and we want to be able to help you defy the odds, so to speak. We want to be able to see you be successful in that space. Contracting, we'll talk about a little bit today as we talk about certification, but again, trying to bring and give you new business opportunities in the private and the public spaces. Entrepreneurial training, where we deliver quality educational opportunities like what you hear today, bringing you speakers like the ones that we have here today that we'll introduce in a quick moment. And then chamber development. We have 140 plus chambers across the country, and we provide professional leadership development training to them as well. So let me start with introducing our guests today. I'm so thrilled to have both of them with us. Shay will join us a little bit later. I know most of you know Shay if you have done any of these sessions in the past. Shay has brought along with him Brie Mills, and Brie is an award-winning senior business consulting for Chase, leading several teams across internal, divisional, and branch partners, as well as working with external community stakeholders as she supports the revenue growth of business clients in Michigan. She has more than 15 years plus of experience across a variety of industries with a focus specifically on financial services and entrepreneurship. And so let me welcome you, Brie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Elisa. I'm very excited to be here.
Great. And as I said, we'll see Shay in a little bit, but most of you know Shay. I'll just introduce him quickly. He's a senior business consultant with Chase as well, has won multiple Outstanding Achiever Awards throughout his tenure. That's been over 10 years now, and has also served as event coordinator for Atlanta's First Bold Leadership Team. Has worked on many Chase projects across the company, most recently Advancing Black Pathways and now Advancing Black Entrepreneurs. And he resides in the Atlanta market. So thanks to Brie and to Shay for joining us today. We're going to just jump right in. So what I wanted to do first is give you a little bit of a review. Module 5 talked about marketing in a digital world. And we introduced that segment probably toward the end of the year. We did a few replays in January. And so I want to give you a quick refresher before we jump into how we're going to leverage that work with this new conversation. So if you have experienced anything in the pandemic, you've experienced the need to be digital, first and foremost. There was a time, as you know, when no one could go into a brick and mortar store. So you had that opportunity to pivot and begin to really understand how you market your company digitally. But what's important in that is the first thing that you want to make sure of, and hopefully all of you have this, and we're going to, as I just wanted to touch on these three things before we move into this next realm. I want you all to make sure you have a website, because that is your hub. That is your hub of information. Everything flows from that. Your social's flowing from that. Your blogs are flowing from that. Your ability to be a subject matter expert is coming out of that. Your ability to share information and resources, your ability to sell online is coming out of your web space. And so want to make sure that you all understand how to recognize, understand who your customers are, how to make sure that your site is mobile friendly, how to leverage testimonials, imagery, streamlined information, easy and accessible navigation. All of those things are critical to you being successful digitally online. And so what are the next things? So we talked about kind of the web as your hub. Our next space in this really goes to social media. So if you've got your hub as your website, your extensions and your channels are coming from social media. So understanding that the landscape is always changing in the social media sphere. I want to say last year, TikTok was all the rave. It still continues to be that, but what's going to be the next thing? I'm on Clubhouse. I'm on a few different things at this point, but all with the intention of not only learning, but understanding how to best utilize the particular channel. We're all doing IG reels. We're all still publishing on Facebook. So part of this is really understanding how you use the right social media apps for your business. And as you can see, it provides you some insight. This page in particular provides some insight relative to each of the channels and how best to leverage it, right? So I want you to kind of keep all these things in mind. We've talked about our hub. Now we're talking about our channels. In front of all of this is still understanding who the customer is and understanding how to leverage this across your different customer segments. So as we move to this slide, we're talking about now how you own that space, right? You know, looking at digital marketing as that key to helping you drive an additional stream of revenue is important. And so how do you claim your space? How do you make yourself visible? How do you make sure that people continue to come back to you? This little progress report gives you an understanding of what does your brand look like vis-a-vis, you know, pre-COVID to where we are now. Where do you want your brand to be in the next 3 years? What marketing spaces make the most sense for you? Sometimes we overwhelm ourselves by being in every single space. No, you don't need to be in every single space, depending on industry you're in, target audience, how best you know, whether or not you're actually selling products online or whether or not you're selling services online. Everything comes with a different mode of operation. And so it might just make sense for you only to be, you know, on IG and LinkedIn. It may make sense depending on your company to be, you know, in a Facebook space, you know, in a LinkedIn space and in an IG space. So those are all the things that you need to talk about or think about as you think about also paid advertising, text messages, how you leverage your reviews, if you're leveraging e-commerce, how you're doing that, and what does even email look like as part of this. So let's jump right in. I want you to keep all of that in mind, because now we're going to jump into part 2 of this conversation, which is around supplier diversity. Remember, we started this with marketing in the digital world. We've started this in a space of it may not always be possible to meet directly with people. How are we going to navigate that space? And Brie, I want to bring you into this conversation because I know you work with a lot of firms, a lot of Black firms in particular, not only helping them pivot through the COVID pandemic, but also helping them strategize their business development strategies as they are thinking about growing their revenue and moving to the next level. And as you know, government contracting can be that space, right? We talk a lot about what does the consumer space look like. We've even talked a little bit about, the private space with corporations, but let's talk a little bit about government contracting and what that means. And so if you wouldn't mind, let's just jump into it and talk about how you've advised clients who are thinking about the government contracting space.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I noticed in the chat, there's a plethora of industries that are represented today. And I'm excited for all of the industries that are here, because sometimes you may think based off of your industry that certain things are not relevant to you. However, when we talk about government contracting and the opportunities that minorities have to step into that space, it can truly take your business to the next level. So in going with different business owners that I've worked with and advised when it comes to government contracting, one of the main things that I make sure that they understand is that it's very important to have the correct designation based off of how your business is owned. So making sure you have the proper certifications in place is very, very important. So meaning women owned, small business disadvantaged, LGBTQ, meaning also Black owned, minority owned, Black and brown owned. That's very, very important. So when it comes to that space, having that foundation laying that credential is very, very important. The other piece of this that's very important is making sure that your business plan is aligned with the type of work that you want to do with the government. So having a business plan on deck and having it current is very, very important. Government contracting can be a very good revenue stream source for you, but it doesn't have to be the only stream. So a lot of times you already have your business positioned in place, and you just need to add additional streams in order to take that revenue to the next level. And government contracting can actually be one of those streams. It's very important that once you connect with the government, that you keep a very good paper trail, that you know who your contact representatives are, and that you follow all of their advice to a T as far as what it would take in order to complete a contract. Now, of course, we know in order to complete a contract, you have to have the revenue, right? So a lot of times what happens with minority owners in particular is they may be up for a contract, but they don't know how they're going to meet the demand of the contract because they may need a certain amount of money in order to make that happen. So essentially, the purpose in the business plan is to align your goals, to make sure that you understand what type of revenue you would need in order to meet the contract, and also to make sure that you're a good steward overall of your business model and the revenue that you're currently making, so that you can position yourself in order to do business with the government, which will ultimately help your business to become more successful.
And so, Brie, those are all great points. As we look at this slide in particular, there are lots of different designations in the certification space as it relates to government contracting, particularly being able to make that available to minority businesses. Whether you're a small disadvantaged business, a woman-owned business, a veteran assistance program business. The next slide, I think, highlights disadvantaged or disabled veteran businesses. There are hub zone programs, there are 8A programs. Can we talk a little bit about if you're approaching this from a standpoint of, I need to connect with someone digitally. I want to include this as a new stream of revenue in my business planning. What is your thought, and what's your guidance around how best to revamp that in the digital space, and what you should be considering as you look across these various programs?
That's a great question. So one of the things that you want to do as a business owner is tell your story very well in a digital manner. So imagine when I go to your website, no matter what business you own, it's like me coming to your home, right? So anytime you enter anyone's home, once you see all the furniture, the fixtures they have going on, the pictures on the wall, all that good stuff, it tells a story about the person's home that you're visiting. Your website is the same way, right? So when I come to any business owner's website, a part of my coaching is for them to tell me a really good story about who they are and how they make money, and to make it clear. So writing your vision down and your mission should be tied into your business being purpose driven. So it's very important for you to outline, even on your website, even if you're not there yet, but you're working on your certifications and things of that nature. If you make government contracting a part of the stream of revenue, you should have some type of clickable link or something to show that this is the direction that you're going for your business. So it's very important, no matter what type of digital platforms that you're using, that you tell a good story. If you're using LinkedIn, go ahead and tell the story about the type of business owner that you are. Make sure that you have that link to your website on there so people can see what type of business that you do. And also making sure that you're solid from a digital perspective in order to network either from business to business or business to consumer. Because the beauty of what we do is there's enough for everybody, right? So you never know who you're going to run into, what your connections may need to look like, but you have to be ready for when you do make those connections, so that when people run into you, they know exactly what you're doing or what you're attempting to do. So right now you may not be in the contracting space, but you desire to be. So now that's a part of the plan that you should be working inside of your business plan to say, this fits for me. I'm going to start doing business with the government. Then you do your research in regards to your specific industry and on average what that particular industry makes. That's very, very important. Then you're going to do a percentage of a breakdown of how much in government contracts can potentially contribute to that revenue. But you're always going to tell the story from a digital perspective and maybe say, we do 10% of our revenue is driven through government contracting. Be able to tell the story, because that way people will see those examples and they'll know exactly what you're doing as you're running your business and how they will potentially be able to do business with you.
Absolutely, Brie. And I think, you said a couple of things I think are really key. There's always this need to go back to the business plan. And as I, remind everyone, your business plan doesn't have to be 50 pages long, but it should be able to guide your journey as a business owner and be something that you continue to update. And this is a strategy that you'd want to update and begin to include in your plan. And you can start small. What's really interesting here on this page is take a couple of takeaways I want you to have, and I believe that this is page page 7 or 8 in your if you've got your participant guide. I didn't want you all to just follow that. I really want you to hear this great conversation from Brie. But so a couple of takeaways. SAM.gov is a big takeaway. If you don't know what SAM.gov is, it is a systems administrative management tool that houses information of all businesses across the country. And so that's one of the things that you want to make sure that you are listed in SAM to be found. The other thing, you were mentioning money, Brie, and I know you're talking about it as a percentage of what your sales volume would be. But as we think about local diversity supplier programs, whether that be city, local, state governments, whether that be private, there's about $49.5 billion worth of commitments by corporate America just in 2020 to address racial equity. That is a pool of money that we are working to help our businesses tap. And so that is one of the things that I want to make sure that you incorporate in your thought process. Finally, I think there's about $665 billion worth of contracts with the U.S. government. That's a fair number to want to go after. And so as you're thinking about it, the jumping through the hoops, which is kind of a con of the program, what I think Brie has suggested, and Brie, you can say it more eloquently than I can, is to really make sure that you have everything in order. Right? Everything doesn't have to be a jump through hoop. If you've got your file set up, if you even digitally have set up your website in a way where people can get the kind of information that they need. So just more in terms of thinking about what does preparation look like. So Brie, as we move to sort of our next slide and our next question, I think we're going to do this part first, and I think we've got a couple of polls that will have everyone participate in. And I see you all asking about the participant guide. If you haven't received it, that's fine. We will send it to you after this session. But this is the part that's most important to you. The guide is for you to be able to refer, and it will walk you step by step through a lot of the things that we're talking about today. So don't stress getting the guide, you will receive it. So let's talk about options here, Brie, because this is where we really start to move into the certification options. Here, where we talk about things like minority business enterprises or MBEs. We talk about women business enterprises or WBEs. There's a certification for the LGBT business enterprise. And you'll hear more about the Buy Black certification as we get toward the end of this, but the USBC has a certification program strictly for Black-owned businesses. And so please stay, you don't want to miss that. But as we talk about, all of these designations, what's the most important strategy as you're thinking about this in leveraging these for revenue growth?
That's a very good question. So the first thing is I want to make sure I encourage everyone on this call to get your certifications if you do not already have them. This is a huge foundation lay for the business. It shows how aware you are of the opportunities that are out there for minority entrepreneurs, for women-owned businesses, etc. The key to this is to make sure that the business is 51% or more owned by a minority, disadvantaged, woman-owned business, etc. Right? The way you're going to leverage this, though, is based off of who you're doing business with and asking them what type of programs they have that are geared directly towards being a certified minority-owned business. So when you're doing business with, different organizations or big box stores, I want to encourage you to find out what is their contractual agreements like for minority entrepreneurs. I'll give you an example. So here in Detroit, which I'm from the Motor City, born and raised, very excited about that. But we have a company called Lush Yummy Pies that is one of my companies that I've consulted for. In the beginning, we just really made sure that her certifications were in place. I see somebody in the panel that's from Detroit. So what up, though? That's what we say in Detroit. But to make sure that she had all of her certifications in place was the foundation lay so that she could do business with companies like Meyer, QVC. Also, she was featured in Oprah's Favorite Things. These things are very important to help to get out who you are from a digital perspective and to tell a story about you being a minority-owned business, because what you're seeking is seeking you. So there are a lot of companies out here that they have dollars specifically earmarked for business owners like you that are on this call. So a part of what you want to do as a strategy is to make sure that you understand who those companies are, how they're relevant to you, and your reason why you would want to do business with them. That's very, very important, because all companies are not made the same. So you have to decide, are you willing to go into the Targets of the world? Are you willing to go into the Myers of the world? Like, who do you want to do business with? Do you want to do business with JP Morgan Chase? Do you want to do business with Bank of America? Whoever you want to do business with, you need to research that company. You also need to do your due diligence in order to make sure that it will be a good relationship to go into, but this will help to drive revenue up. But let's talk about the foundation of what you need outside of that certification in order to truly do business. You can't go from 0 to 360. So you have to put a plan in place that would speak to taking your time in order to make sure that you're making the right decisions and to make sure that you have the supply to meet the demand. That's very, very important, right? So when we're talking about big box stores, when we're talking about government contracts, they're not going to ask you for 100 units of anything, right? We know it's going to be thousands of units that they're going to be asking for. So it's very important to make sure that your business plan turns into an operations model that includes your certifications, right, as a part of your process, but also that you understand what it takes from a financial standpoint to be able to meet those obligations once they open the door and say, hey, you are a minority business that we are interested in doing business with.
So Brie, I think all those points are spot on. We're going to move to the next slide, and we're going to take a quick poll of everyone just to sort of have a sense of what you all are thinking as we move through this. There's lots more for us to tap into here. So we just talked a little bit about supplier diversity programs. Let us know if you're how familiar you are with them. So if you all want to take just a moment, 30 seconds to take this poll, will give us a great sense of directionally where we're going to go next in this conversation. And Phil, you let me know when we're ready to move. You got about 10 more seconds. Okay, we're going to display. We're at like 65%, so we're over 50. Let's see where we are. Okay, so we've got some folks who are we're in that space of somewhat and not at all. And so this is exactly why we're doing this poll today, because this poll as well as this session today, because we want to get you ready. A couple of things that Brie talked about was how you prepare yourself and knowing and not jumping in, totally feet first into this process, because particularly the government contracting space, there are ways to graduate into each area. And when you're talking to procurement officers specifically, there's a space that they call P card, which is really kind of their credit card opportunity, where people across their system can use their credit card resources or their PO resources to buy from you. 5,000, say if you got orders 5,000 every time, 10 of those orders, you got $50,000 in revenue. So sometimes it's fine to sort of think about how you gradually move into that space. The next space that we always talk about is really more of the what we'll call request for information, where there might be an agency trying to know how many businesses are in the area that they can begin to add to their roles and begin to send you information. You want to take that opportunity to always participate in that. And then there are the larger contracts, which are more RFP focused or request for proposals, where you have to actually submit a proposal. But you don't have to start at the very top. You can start at a lower end of really making a relationship locally that you're able to fulfill upon. And I think those things are really critical as we think about sustainability, as we think about upgrading, your digital marketing to be able to support that. Shay, tell me a little, Brie, tell me a little bit about working with a client that is navigating that government contracting space, because I'm sure that you have clients that might come in. One of the key things is making sure you have enough money to be able to fulfill the contract. I know you talked a little bit about it's not usually hundreds of items, it's usually thousands of items, and that usually costs money to be able to put those things in place. And sometimes that requires financing, and sometimes it doesn't. So when you're working with a client and they're either going through certification or they're certified and they're going through the government contracting space, how are you helping them navigate that, particularly if they might also need financing for that?
Absolutely. So a part of the process, of course, is you want to be certified first. I want to make that point clear. Secondly, when you're doing business, be it on the government level, local level, whatever the case may be, You have to be prepared for the size of the opportunity, even when it comes to employees. A lot of times what happens with small business owners is they try to do a lot of things themselves, especially minority owners. So you have to ensure that you've built a sustainable business model that will allow you to employ people to help you to meet the demand of what the contract is. So that's a huge part of it. Another huge part is making sure you efficiently financially plan, right? So the litmus test for me when it comes to a business owner and whether they can handle future contracts and whether they can increase their revenue year over year is the sustainability and how solid the business model is. So I always tell my clients, you do not need money in order to build your business. You need a good business model in order to build your money. Now, let me tell you why I'm saying that. Access to capital is never a challenge as long as you are coached and you're able to get your ducks in a row. So essentially, you can go to any financial institution, you can go to any community development corporation, you can go to a Cdfis, and there are several places, no matter where you are located, that can give you access to the funds that you need. Now, the ultimate goal is having access to capital and being able to utilize other people's money. But I want us to dig deeper. In order for you to be able to do that, no one gives you a playbook for how you're going to run your business and how you're going to get these contracts and all of that good stuff. So understanding your specific industry is very, very important. Understanding and doing your research as far as your industry is concerned to know what the average amount of government contracts goes to that industry is going to be key, because knowledge is power. So when you're walking your way into the different type of contractual agreements, you want to not only make sure that you are in a financially stable place, even if you're not, you figure out a way to pull yourself out of where you are to sustain the business. So the key to getting money is when you don't need it. I want to say that one more time. The key to getting money for your business is when you do not need it. So there are certain lending facilities that need to be put in place in order to take your business to the next level. So because I looked at the chat and the many businesses that were in the chat, I want to take this down a couple notches to really get you all to where you need to be. So foundationally, of course, you want to make sure you have business accounts in place and that you're able to pay people and things of that nature. But the way that you're going to do that is by making sure your business model is not only automated, but it runs like a well-oiled machine from your business plan. So take your business plan and turn that into an operations model that you run, because that's step one. You want to make sure that you're able to duplicate yourself and that you have the right positions in place in order for people to come into your company and effectively run the company. So I encourage you all to have a corporate mentality for your small business, right? Everybody on this call did not come out the gate running a business. So at one point in time, you worked for some type of company. Even if you didn't, I encourage you to look at the blueprint for what you need in order to run your business effectively. So when it comes to those contracts, you want to stay ready so you don't have to get ready, but it's going to be a process in order to get ready for it, if that makes sense. So I want you to go through, make sure that you're certified, but also do your research on who you want to do contracts with and get an idea of what they will require in order for you to land your first contract or multiple contracts.
You know, Brie, you gave us some really great gems in there. And a couple of them, we're going to move into the next couple of slides, but a couple of them that I wanted us to really be thinking about was the fact that you need to be prepared. And I always think about if I'm working towards this particular goal, which might be government contracting, and I have to put these documents together for certification, they are typically the same documents I have to put together if I'm going to be looking for financing down the road. So is there not a way for us to connect those two things together? And we put up this certification checklist just so you all could get a sense of the kinds of things that you need to be thinking about. But to me, those things don't work in a vacuum if you're looking at this as a not only a long-term strategy, but a preparation strategy as well, because this is sort of your next frontier. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a very good question. So I'm kind of a rebel when it comes to my thoughts about business ownership a little bit when it comes to getting your ducks in a row. The one thing I want to convey today is you need to run your business incredibly well first and foremost, right? You need to be an expert in your field in whatever you are doing in order to take your business to the next level. Around you, you should have a qualified team of trusted advisors that you oversee for the areas that you have pain points in. So if you are not the person that needs to go to the table to help to execute on all of your contracts in order to get the contracts from the government or from any corporations, you need to have a trusted advisor, which could be your attorney. You know, you need to let your CPA know what your financials need to look like in order for you to qualify for lending. You need to be able to have challenging conversations with people in order to see this thing through from start to finish. So what I do encourage is running your business incredibly well, and then making sure you find the support system that you need around you in order to help you with things that you may not be good at, including documentation, if documentation is a pain point, or if certain dots don't connect for you all the way as a business owner. Don't be ashamed of those things. You may not be able to design your website, so you need to find a good web designer. You know, you may not be good at certain things when it comes to the contractual piece and breaking down the numbers, so you need a numbers guy. You need somebody that's going to be next to you in order to help, that you can trust to help take that thing to the next level. Now, the certification process, we have all types of people that certify across the country that can hold your hand with certain things. So certain things that you're not going to pass off so that you understand. You just need to understand the core of what you're doing, but you don't have to be an expert in that. However, you do need to be an expert in building your business. Shay, you made it. Happy to see you.
No, thank you to have me. I will tell you this. I came in the middle of the conversation. Alyssa, you and I have always connected. Alyssa's a true banker. I'll always listen to her. So I literally had no issue knowing that Brie was starting to talk. I don't know what she's talking about, but she right, y'all. She right. Like, she right. So I'll jump in whenever you want me to jump in, let me know. But yes, Brie is 100% right. I'm ready to start a business. I'll listen to her.
There you go. There you go. He's ready right off the bat. So we are gonna pivot a little bit because I do want to get you into this conversation, Shay. Before I do that, just everyone know we're gonna probably stop at the next 5 minutes so we can take some questions. So you can put your questions in the Q&A. Philip Dunn is behind the scenes for us today. And we'll pick a few and we'll answer those for you. But let's talk about building this network and beyond, because Shay, you and I talk about this all the time in terms of, you know, working in your lane, right? And I think you all can see on the screen what it means to build your network. As we talk about leveraging digital marketing to promote who we are and to be able to get people to buy what it is that we're selling. Can we also talk about how you leverage having your files in a place digitally where you can access them for things? And particularly, I really always try to tell folks, you know, a lot of times I've gotten requests to help someone. It's usually at the last minute. The bank is never going to move in the time that you want them to move. If you don't take anything away from, please take that. Not that they don't want to. There just isn't the time to do that. And so I've always been encouraging people to be prepared in advance. As we talk about this, and we just mentioned this idea around documents you use for certification, or probably documents you need for financing. When you're thinking about bringing on a new strategy, a new revenue strategy, whether that be government contracting or, you know, whether it be something else, it could be a manufacturing play, it could be anything. What are the key things that you want your businesses to be thinking about in that process, and how does financing either move that objective along? When should it be considered? Or is it something that you can, depending on obviously size, depth, and breadth, that you can do on your own? What are your thoughts relative to when to do this engagement as relates to, doesn't even have to be a bank, could be a CDFI, could be a local, community-based lender. When is the opportune time to begin to ask for money?
Yeah, I think, I'll answer in two parts. You asked about just kind of in general, then we'll talk more financing, P&L and balance sheet, talk about love languages. Listen, so I'll leave a piece of that. I think what owners need to think about of all the avenues in your business, all the different components of the machine. As to pick up with what Brie was saying, you have to have those connected, trusted advisors, and you have to engage them early and often. And then what you end up doing is when you engage them early and often, you're going to start getting files through. We can talk, there's a whole nother thing of like a filing system, but I would just say to have some type of system, whether that's like for me personally, I have a Dropbox, Google Drive, and I use them at different times. And so I always label things by the year, then like what it is. Sometimes I'll spell it out and put the abbreviation, because sometimes you put the abbreviation, you forget it and it's lost forever. But let's go even deeper to financing. When should you engage? I think this is just my personal opinion. I think that business and business debt, whether it's lines of credit or loan, whatever facility, I think they're necessary in business. We can't think of how we run our personal lives of how we run our business lives. I went to a strategy. We did our Chase business seminar around strategy. And the thing is, when it's time to go, you got to think about it. You're competing. You may not know them. You may not see them. I've always thought that it would be great if the SBA could rank businesses daily so people can wake up and see where their competition is. Because I think that'll motivate them to kind of to really zero in on what really matters. And so when it comes to financing, I believe early and often. And so as you're starting your business, good bookkeeper, good CPA, good banker. Those are my top three. That's just banker. Take it with a grain of salt because we work for Chase. But I'm going to say those three. And then I think those are the three most important. Not the only, but the most important. And then what you do is then bring them to the table. Have those conversations. A good CDFI as well. I think, listen, no one really wants to say this, but being a pure startup is like being a ninth grader in high school. You just got to survive to the 10th grade. No one really cares until you get to the 10th grade. My father was a principal. He said, look, son, you started ninth grade. It's going to suck. See you in the 10th grade. So, and if we know that, that's okay. Because now we know how to play the game. We can then engage CDFIs that will still lend to early stage entrepreneurs. If you're thinking of leaving your job or keeping your job, you may stay because the CDFI says, yeah, we'll lend to you being a startup. We just need you to keep your job. I meet many business owners, and I've done so many deals so far this year with some of our CDFIs in Atlanta with pure startups that have kept their job. So when you're thinking about money, I think early and often, because now we're having those conversations. I'll just give this last analogy. Whether you went to college, got a certification or anything in education, you prep before you went there. Right? I mean, I didn't go to Harvard, but I could just show up to Harvard and be like, hey, I'm ready to get it in. Like, they would never accept me. The way that our world is set up is a preparatory world. And so if you're thinking from a prep standpoint, whether that's food, lawn care, cleaning up, everything is preparatory. So owners start thinking of your business in the same alignment that you think of everything else. Have those conversations early and often. You don't have to say yes and take the facility, but you need to know how to get there and get it when you need to get it. And I think that'll lessen and demystify the process for you, and it'll empower you to move forward in your business and implement a strategy that's effective one time.
I think that's great. We're going to move to the next slide because I think you're spot on, Shay, with that analogy and analysis of this. This is you all know being a business owner ain't for the weak. So you have to be able to prepare yourself and set yourself up for success. And sometimes that takes a little bit more diligence and time to do certain things in order to make that happen. But at the end, it's all going to pay off for you. But I think that notion of we live in a preparatory society, you got to prep first before you can move over to the next piece. And so as we are really going to close on this, I just want to hit these really key points. And I want to leave a little bit of time for Brie and for Shay to talk about Chase Business Consulting. So I think what Brie and Shay are talking about is stepping up to the table, right? Opportunities are big. Opportunities are growing. U.S. Black Chambers would not be so focused on procurement and contracting and financing if we didn't know that there is money out there to be had. And we want you to have it. We want you to go after it. But we want you to be prepared, and we want you to be the best that you can be. And the certification conversation is one of those conversations that's important in order for you to be ready. Because one of the things that certification does bring you is credibility. And there's times where we need to start out with credibility on our side, right? And so you're going to be authentic business owners that understand who it is that you're talking to when you're going through your government contracting, business development strategy. You're actually also going to listen, because you need to understand what it is that they're really looking for, not what it is that you provide. At the end of the day, it's about solutions. So if someone has, if you're able to help, whether it's a private corporation or regular vendor or a government agency, if you're able to be the key to helping them solve the thing that's vexing them, that's what helps get you into the door. I want you to always remember that. Brie said it many times today, being able to tell your story effectively. Work on that elevator pitch as many times as you have to. Write it down, read it over, memorize it. Be able to tell your story in person, be able to tell your story online, be able to engage all the channels that you need. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. Start to think about, how you move through the relationship and how you establish your online presence and ensure that it is always present and you're on top of what it is saying about you and about your business, right? So these opportunities are huge. I want to just move us to the next slide before I go to closing remarks from both Shay and Brie. Because I mentioned to you that we have a certification program. So you saw all of the minority certification programs. We launched our Buy Black certification program in September of 2021. We are happy to have certified over 1,500 businesses thus far. And how that helps you is there are a number of corporations that we work with. I think I started this off with about that $49 billion worth of commitments made in 2020 by a number of corporations. Well, guess what? We reach out to them and we work with them in order to find opportunities for our businesses. And so as a certified business, that helps us be able to connect you to ongoing opportunities that we see, whether it be in the private sector or the public sector. And so I would encourage you to register today to be certified. It is completely online. Just like everything else, as you're preparing those documents that we talked about earlier, make sure that you have those ready so that when you are walking through the online process, they're ready and available for you to upload. But totally online, your site visit is online. We've made it really, really simple to become certified. And so please take advantage of that. You can go to usblackchambers.org/certification, or you can go to buyblack.us. And so in closing, I want to share with all of you an opportunity that I think would be helpful for you to understand how not only banks, but how larger corporations may be thinking about your company, may be thinking about, or you might be learning more about how they view industries so that it helps you be able to prepare yourself more effectively. And that is Chase for Business coaching. Depending on whether you're a startup or whether you're an existing business, depending on your revenue size, this program exists for all of you. And we'll send this out in our link to all of you later, but I would encourage you to sign up for this program and get yourself a free hour of business counseling. It can always help you. It's never going to be a hindrance to you. And as you move forward in your journey, I think it'll be really helpful in moving you, into the right realms of where it is that you want to go. And so Shay and Brie, as we close, Feel free to talk a little bit about this program. Feel free to talk about other things that might be going on at Chase that people should avail themselves to. And, you know, if you got any top 2 tips, feel free to give us that as well.
Brie, you want to go first, or you've been woman in the ship, so I'll defer to you.
I just want to say thank you, Shay. I want to say that in my 17 years of being in the banking industry, I've never seen a program like this or a wave that you could ride that would be more effective for your business than a time such as this. So I'm excited that we're offering one-on-one coaching. I'm excited that we are in venues that we're doing seminars in to give you the intellectual capital that you need in order to plug and play it into your business. We have so many success stories over this past, almost 2 years that we've been doing this program. We've taken people from 6 figures to 7 figures. We have people that were in mom and pop shops that are now in big box stores. We have just so many success stories. People that were leasing their buildings are now owners of their buildings. It's a beautiful thing. Seeing people go from a couple of employees to double-digit employees and 3-digit employees is a wonderful thing to witness. I just want to encourage you all on your entrepreneurship journey. Do not make it harder than it has to be. Just focus, because the answers are truly on the inside of you of exactly what you need to do in order to be a successful business owner. You're going to have some great days and you're going to have some not so great days, but it takes a lot of courage to run a business, to build a business, to make mistakes, and to take things to the next level for your families. So think about how you affect society, how you affect your communities, how you're going to be affecting your household. Begin with the end in mind when it comes to your business, and write down your goals and write down the strategies that you're going to implement in order to make sure you achieve the goals. And be passionate and genuine about what you're doing. It's so important. Don't just run your business just for the sake of making money. That's no longer good enough. We are in a society where consumers are very intuitive. They know when they're seeing a real story. So be good at telling your story and be authentic in telling your story. And most importantly, give back. We are all in this together. Make sure that you are talking to the next business owner, that looks like you. And if you have a tip for them that will help them, share the tip, because at the end of the day, we're all planting seeds, and that's what really helps us to get to the next level is knowing, not knowing what we don't know, right? So we're here to help. Feel free to connect with us. You can connect with us via LinkedIn, via email, whatever venue you want to use. And no matter where you're located, we can get you to the right person in the right place. So thank you so much for having me, Elisa.
Thank you so much, Brie.
No,
Any closing thoughts, Shay? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm happy to, Brie, we got to get a whole one together. I look at Brie, I think we would have had great competition if we were in the same market when we were business bankers, because I just think the world of Brie. Every time she talks, I learn something. So, so I will add on to what Brie said. Everything that Brie said, I'm gonna add on. And I guess I'll start with one of our success stories. That owner, we're doing our mentorship, and we were talking about business development. And I asked him, "Who's your competition?" He's like, "I ain't got no competition." I said, "Okay, it's not a rap video. Who's your competition? You got competition." I get it. We're not a hip hop video. Who's the competition? And we're having these conversations over and over. We're going back and forth. And we developed a business development list. And I'm so happy to report, one of the reasons why my computer died a little bit earlier was, I think so, but he secured a $500,000 deal with a major airline. And through supplier diversity. He didn't know why he needed to be an MBE. Well, I got to do it. I don't want to do it if they're not going to give it to me. I said, well, listen, it's a license to hunt. It doesn't mean you're going to get any deer. It just says you can get out there on the range. And so we developed a business plan. He worked through it. And, now we're getting him with a bookkeeper because he's now self-discovered. He needs access to capital, but the books weren't all the way right. And so, the way I explain to him in our coaching sessions, going a lot of my coaching sessions, though, I explain business as a game. That's really all it is. And I know we're doing it to impact our families, build generational wealth. and all of that good stuff. And I don't take away from any of that. But I would just tell you that if you're thinking that today is a Tuesday? It's a Tuesday. You're not going to get all that by Friday. You're not going to impact wealth from Monday to Friday. So take your end goal, like Brie said, then break it down in incremental steps and create a strategy. So start from the end, work it backwards. And along the way, just be open to understanding something that you may not know. You know, our job with our community is to help people understand how to work with Chase and banks. Now, I get it. Should banks be doing things based on historical things that's going on? I think it's a perfect germane conversation. And I'm more than happy to have that in a one-off. But at the fact of the matter, the game is the game. No one's changing the game right off the bat. But that's why Chase has myself, has Brie, Alyssa. You've been in this world as well. We have done the hand-to-hand combat when it comes to lending. We have seen those small mom and pops become national, international businesses. And again, what I tell owners all the time, the way that I look at America in general, is you make money, you do whatever you do politically with it, and then you change laws. And we're at the make money stage. And so I'm just so happy to have that opportunity. And I think back to my owner with the story. And I will leave you with what I leave him all the time. Think of it as a game. Think of it, what does winning look like to you? Go out there to win. Make sure there's a number metric for it. And just keep going. And it's supposed to be hard, because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Absolutely. So we're going to take 3 questions, if you all don't mind. Phil, do you want to tee us up for the questions you've seen in the Q&A?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, and you all have been great. There have been a few questions that have come through the Q&A. The remainder, we will send out the responses via email. Jamila Adams asked the question, are the HubZone contracts difficult to get, and do you have to stay within that HubZone network?
Either one of you want to take that? And I can take it if needed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would need some more information. What industry is Jamila in? Are we talking real estate development or?
Mm-hmm. And when we're talking HubZone, so remember that HubZone is an economic designation, first and foremost.
Okay.
It is also typically a geographic designation. So if you are in a HubZone and you're securing business as part of being in that HubZone, the physical address of the HubZone needs to remain in that zone to continue. Now, it's not to say that you might not expand into other areas, but there are specific rules that govern HubZone contracting. And one of the first of those rules is to be located in the area where you're potentially receiving a contract, and to hire people in that neighborhood of where you're receiving contracts as well. So hopefully that helps. We can have a separate conversation about that if you're looking for more information.
Thank you so much for that, Elisa. Our next question is, how important is it to establish good relationships with local bankers, Cdfis, or Black-owned banks? That comes from Stephen Perry.
Don't wait, do it now. Go ahead, y'all. Shay or Brie, I don't want them to wait. I want them to do it now. So what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Alyssa. Do it now. I would say I'll leave some time for Brie. Oh, you good, Brie? Okay, I'll just leave some time for Brie. I think understand that there are differences in bankers. So your retail banker, this is not the 1980s, guys. So that one banker doesn't do everything. Our industry is very fragmented. So I want to tell owners all the time, your banker in the retail world, which are phenomenal bankers. I started as a banker in the retail world. They're going to be, they have a lot of nuances. You want to ask who the business relationship manager is, and you want to find out and ask that banker, who is the person you work with when your customers want loans? I want to find out what they need so I can have myself prepared. So I would just say that, just understand that the banker sitting at the desk in your branch, whether it's a small bank or a larger bank, is not the banker you would deal with for a loan. Find out who that person is and start building a relationship with them. Brie, I'll defer the rest of you.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I also think it's very important for you to do research to make your own financial plan on both the business and the personal side, right? Educating yourself in order to take your financial portfolio to the next level is so very important. No, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. When it comes to having a relationship with the financial institution, I think it's incredibly important to answer your phone when the bank is calling you or anybody that's dealing with any type of finances so you can find the right fit for you and that you can build a relationship. I do believe depending on what level you're at, every bank is not, created the same. Of course, I think we work for the best one in the world, but we have people that are dedicated based on the level that you're at. And I think that it's important for you to build a relationship, but not only let them know where you are now, but where you intend to go. And then you need to start networking so you can meet the right financial professionals that can help to take you there.
And I just want to add to that before we take the last question. I spent many years in financial services industry. I spent many years working with all sizes of Black business owners. And one of the things that doesn't matter what the size is that we all seem to have in common is this sense of humbleness and not seeking the people that we need to be working with to move us to the next level, right? I need you all to get beyond the teller. It's fine to give your money to the teller for deposits, but when you start thinking about the breadth and depth of what you want to do in your business life, you got to go beyond that. One example for me, and I'm probably going to be a little off topic, but you all know me, so I'll just say what it is. One of the things that drove me really crazy with the Ryan Coogler piece is that, and it goes to my point, no matter how big we are, we still stand in the space of humbleness when we need to really ask for what we want. While I understand you have to go to the teller sometimes to get money, Ryan Coogler is a private banking customer, but he has to view himself as that. And I want you all to start thinking of yourselves as you're moving through these phases, that there are varying levels of bankers that you're going to need to engage along your journey. And you have to ask for those in order to begin to move into those spaces. So when multi-millionaire, client, I want you talking to the man, nothing against the manager in the branch. I used to be one of those, right? But we're generalists. We know everything about everything. I need you in a wealth side of the bank. I need you in the private banking side of the bank. I need you in the investment banking side of the bank, because in order for you to grow, they have many more skill sets that move you into the direction that you want to go. And so many times we have minimized ourselves when I want you all to maximize yourselves. And you know what? At some point we'll have to do a conversation just on that. But I just wanted to add that. Let's go to the next.
Well, Alyssa, just to tell you, that issue would have happened with any customer in a private bank that would have gone to a bank, because the bank is the banks don't speak to each other. It's two different lines of business.
Exactly, and that's why you got to be able to be beyond this, right?
Yeah,
you got to,
we'll take the last question.
Bank. Yeah, let's get the last question. What works in retail bank doesn't work every place else.
Yeah. All right, and thank you so much for that. This last question, before we take the last question, please email all of your questions to programs@usblackchambers.org. This last question is a certification question. How long does it take to complete the certification process?
On average, normally it doesn't take longer than 60 days. Here in Michigan, it's very robust the way that we do it. We have several different community development corporations and people that are in place in order to help with certifications. As long as you do your part as far as the application process, you should be certified within a couple of months.
Right. And let me add to that, because it can be quicker depending on you. So the length of time depends on you. If you come to the process with half of your documentation and somebody sends you a note and you don't send the other half for 2 months later, then you can't get approved in 2 months, right? So the most important thing, and that's why I'm really high on what we do in the Buy Black space, because we've had folks get certified within a week. We had other folks get certified in 3 months because of how long it took us to give us documents. Our average somewhere in the 30 to 45 day time to move forward when they're being on you. So my advice to you is make sure that all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. You usually get a checklist. Just complete the checklist of information. Just have all that ready when you apply. So Phil has put up kind of our final poll, which is, do you think you'll apply for certification within the next 12 months? And we'll give you again 30 seconds to fill that out, and we will close out. And I thank you all for your time. We're moving really quickly today. I so appreciate all of you being here with us.
All right. And Elisa, before we close out, I just want to shout out a couple of our businesses that made it a point to share their information. Inbound, Outbound Transportation, Terminal B, Clutch Boss Transports, your very own, Sonia Johnson, Real Estate Professional Servicing, Don O'Ree, Realtor CIPS, Cocoa Breeze, Caribbean Restaurant and Bakery, Fog Flooring and Contracting, Nubian Newborns, be sure to check them out, in Promoting Love and Wisdom Child Care Center. And then we'll end the poll here. And share
So let's see. Yes, we got like 95%. That's wonderful. For those who have said no, I'm going to imagine it's because certification doesn't work for everybody. So it might not be what you need for your business. So there's no right or wrong answers of these. And then for those of you who are uncertain, I would encourage you to attend our upcoming, I think once a month we have a webinar about the Buy Black certification program. And we talk about certifications in general. So I think we can change your mind, but would love to see you participate in that. And so we're going to go to the kind of the closing slides just to let you all know what's coming up. So we've got our national conference coming up in July, July 14th through the 16th. Make sure that you go to usbcconference.com to register today. We will have, I think right now we're taking reservations for the in-person piece, but we will have a virtual spot there as well. Advancing Black Entrepreneurs, we're going to release a series of dates coming up for our other content that we will be presenting. And so just look forward to that. And then we have our Grow with Google content as well. So as we're talking about the digital space, that is something for you all to attend. And we're spending a lot of time helping our businesses get online through that program. Please save the date. We have this 3-part series, Contracts and Capital. Our first date is May 24th. And so we'd love for you all to register. We are going to take this conversation from the very beginning of what you need to do to, all the way to the end of how you're able to connect to the financing that you need in order to expand this strategy for yourself. We're excited because we do have some relationships with some government agencies right now that are looking to do business with us. And so we want you kind of part of that conversation. And you'll learn more starting May 24th. And I think that's where we end today. I want to thank Brie and I want to thank Shay. As always, you are stellar. The information you provide is amazing. And your care and commitment and dedication to working with us, particularly USBC, as we work with our businesses to grow them and to be able to grow wealth in our communities, is just unparalleled. I'm so thankful for both of you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So everyone, we will see you next time. We will have a Chase webinar in June. Stay tuned for replays of this particular webinar, and we'll send out the participant guide and some other information to you later on today. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining.